Hello guys, happy Tuesday morning. Today I'm going to jump right into storytelling, and it might sound weird to some of you guys. We learned some more about it at Super Saturday, and I was kind of digging through some old notes and putting my own touch on a couple of things, and this is just a topic that I've never done a Zoom on, so I think it's really important. So storytelling. We do not have to be salespeople. We just simply have to be able to tell a story, be storytellers. That is what we learned at Super Saturday, and oh my gosh, it's so true. So first and foremost, whenever we tell a story, do you want to sit up here with mommy? Whenever we tell a story, not you, down. It releases two types of hormones in the people who are listening. It releases happy hormones, and then it releases attention hormones. And those who are at Super Saturday have learned this with me. This is so huge. So not only when you tell a story, trust and happy hormones. So when you start telling a story, naturally the hormones that are released, this person already naturally trusts you more than they just did. They're feeling happier because they're listening to a story, and you have their attention. All right. So telling a story is so important. Your story of your why is your most important story. All right. So I'm going to break that down a little bit more. So what is the anatomy of a success story? What is the anatomy of your story? I'm going to need you to come sit over here. Go get Mr. Potato Head and do it right here, or go with Daddy, please. The anatomy of a success story. Well, number one is tell them your name if you don't know this person. And then number two, your background. What did you do full time before Plexus? What was life like before Plexus? Were you a teacher? Were you, a stay-at-home mom the same way you are right now? What were you doing full time before Plexus? Number three, the story of your why. So this overall is the anatomy of a success story. So number one, name. Number two, background. Number three, your why. But under your why, there's a different notes. So don't just tell people your why. So don't say, hey, my name's Jen. I've always been a stay-at-home mom, and I decided to try Plexus because I had really bad anxiety and I really need to start making some money and helping my husband out. That's just telling someone your why. That's not telling a story of your why. So how do we tell a story of our why? All right, well, if your why is more time freedom, then don't just tell someone that you needed more time freedom. You tell them a story of a time that you couldn't make it to your daughter's ballet practice. You tell them a story of a time where you weren't able to, where your husband wasn't able to be at your kids' birthday party. Tell them an emotionally connecting story to go with you needing time freedom, which I'm going to give you guys examples. I'm sorry if that sounds confusing so far, but so we're not going to just tell our why. We tell a story of our why, and that's how we do it. So at Super Saturday, I love their example. If yours was, well, I needed to lose a few pounds. And she tells a story about how she couldn't fit into her wedding dress, and she always dreamed about being able to fit into her wedding dress on her 10-year anniversary and renew their vows or something like that. And she talks about how she didn't say like, oh, I joined Plexus because I needed to lose a few pounds. She says, oh, I joined Plexus because my 10-year anniversary was creeping up, and I've always known that my goal was to fit into my wedding dress on my anniversary, and quite frankly, I just couldn't. And so I joined so I could get into better shape, so that I could fit into that wedding dress and look really pretty for my husband the way that I always promised him that I would have. And I knew what it would feel like to get that wedding dress on and just feel that rush of emotions all over again. And that means way too much to me to pass up not trying these products to get that. So that's basically what she means on connecting a story in that way. The fourth component of the anatomy of a success story, it's optional, but it's really powerful, would be blocking objections and talking about skepticism. All right. So the way that we would do this was, for example, after trying so many supplements, I thought for sure X, Y, and Z. After trying, Herbalife and it works, I thought for sure this was just another thing that was going to be drawing money out of my account, that I knew what I really needed to do was, just work out harder. Or, I thought that I didn't have the time or the money, but X, Y, and Z. I really was convinced that I didn't have the money to try all of this, but once my husband really pointed out to me how much I was spending on Starbucks, I guess, it was actually more than what I spend right now. That is making it relatable. It's really important to relate to people. You're going to be making it a point to be relatable on your background of what you were doing before Plexus, your why, and this blocking objections, because that this is what people are naturally thinking, right? That naturally most people are going to say that they don't have the money for this or they don't have the time to work the business. So to work that into your story of telling your story is so powerful, because they don't even realize that you're doing it, but you're already blocking their objection of that. You're already putting it out there. Hey, I thought that too, but I found X, Y, and Z. So that part is optional. If you were skeptical, this is a really good place to implement that. I threw trial packs in the trash. I think you guys probably all know this by now. So throwing in that you are skeptical is really good here too, because it makes you that much more relatable, and they're probably a little bit skeptical who isn't going into this. And the fifth component that's really important, the final component of the anatomy of a success story, is tangible results. All right. So saying, oh, I was a stay-at-home mom and, blah, 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 and this just changed my life. That's way too vague, you guys. Changed your life. Granted, everybody on this call, it has changed our lives. No doubt about that, right? But we have to give them something more tangible, and we have to give them something more specific. Be specific in this. Please go to Daddy. Can you go to Daddy? And Daddy will help you get that earring in your ear. So tangible results. So change my life, too vague. It's not tangible, but specific would be, fast forward and now I'm down 25 pounds, and I can fit into that wedding dress now, that type of a thing. Or, fast forward, now I have a team of 30 people and we're all changing lives together. And now, my husband doesn't have to take that extra shift, or whatever this means to you. Sarah Oatman, fast forward, I have a team of X amount and I'm not even serving tables at Chili's anymore, and my boys don't have to miss me anymore. I'm able to be full-time with them, or, put that emotional connection on it. Don't be vague about your tangible results at the end. So overall, on telling your story, do's that we learned at Super Saturday: do practice it, and do provide details. Don't memorize it, and don't ramble. Okay, those are really important key things. So do practice and do provide details. Don't memorize and don't ramble during it. It's okay. Are you going to be a good girl? Please get that out of your mouth. Okay, thank you. And do tell, even if you think no one wants to hear it. Even if you don't know who's listening, you don't know who wants to hear it, tell your story, and then tell it again, tell it again, tell it again. Never stop telling our stories. So I'm going to give you an example of what my story is. I'm going to keep this Zoom pretty short today and to the point, but before I tell the example of my story, I do want to make it a point that although I rushed through all those points, it's all going to kind of piece together right now when I tell you guys my story on what I mean by all of these things. But this is so important, you guys, because our story, we are a storefront for Plexus, basically. Like, our face is the storefront, right? We've heard that before. In traditional business ownership, we would have a physical storefront, and in network marketing, you are the storefront, right? And so our story in so many ways is our first impression. It's basically our mission statement. It tells people what this whole thing is about, what we're all about, and why we're even telling them about it. So our stories are really important. So I know that you guys, you need to get down now because you're not sitting still. Go to Daddy, please. Babe, will you please come get Naomi? Babe? Never mind. Okay, so it is important to tell our story. This is something that we've never put enough emphasis on, and I know that I tell my story, but not with all of these key components. And as I was putting everything together for the Zoom, it was really, opening my eyes more and more of like, there's key components that I've been missing from my story. So I'm going to really take this and run with it. So this is the new story. And now that I just told it, I'm going to tell it back to you guys. I realize that I missed out the part of me being so skeptical of Emily. So I will be going back and revising in my skepticism in it. I did put my skepticism on it working for my anxiety, but I didn't put in my skepticism about the business. So I'll be adding that. But this is the gist of my story of what I tell people. I'm reading it right now, so it's not going to sound nearly as natural, but this is absolutely what I tell people in a more natural flow. So I say, I'm Jen. I've been a stay-at-home mom since I was pregnant with my firstborn, Reagan, who's now 6. My husband was in the Marine Corps for 10 years. He was in the Marine Corps up to this point, our whole marriage. I hit a point in 2014 when Justin was getting ready for his 3rd consecutive deployment, and we could barely make ends meet. We couldn't go on family vacation. We were living like on a Dave Ramsey budget of just trying to make ends meet, where I knew that something had to change. And I also knew that Skype kisses and Skype dates weren't going to cut it forever. Our plan was always that Justin would stay in the Marine Corps for the full 20 years because financially we felt like we had no other choice. So I said Skype kisses weren't forever going to cut it, and neither was the lack of sleep from my never-ending anxiety that I had daily, which is also, so that's my health testimony, and that's my health why and my business why tied in there. And then the skepticism part, I said, I had tried wanting, I tried it. I went in, so I guess I did mention this. I went in wanting to prove my friend Emily wrong, who kept telling me about it. She had dropped samples off at my house. I threw them in the trash. I just thought this whole thing was like such a scam because I was so skeptical. And when I did order, I ordered with every intention on getting my money back because you have 60 days to get your money back. And I figured if prescriptions didn't work for my anxiety, how were these natural supplements going to help? But I tried out of desperation. I had reached that point, and I also knew a lot of people in my life who needed these products. And so I jumped in thinking I'll get my money back if they don't work for me. And if they do work for me, maybe I could help my dad and a couple of other family members who I knew really needed these. But fast forward, in July, I retired. My husband had the Marine Corps 10 years early because of my Plexus income. It was never an option before for us. We are almost entirely debt-free, aside of the fact that we just closed escrow on our brand new home. And I have been anxiety-free for 2 years. And then it ended up helping me with like stomach issues and headaches and things that I didn't expect it to help me with either. So, it's completely rocked our entire world. That's my story. I summed up who I am, what I did before Plexus was by saying I've always been a stay-at-home mom, why I'm doing this with the emotional Skype dates, Skype kisses. Actually, the part that I didn't read out loud is I even often throw in that the girls would always cry at night when he was deployed. So I'm like, I knew that wouldn't cut it forever. Them having to miss their dad for months on end, him not watching them grow up and them cry, themselves to sleep a lot of nights over deployment. So throwing in those emotional details really gets people realizing what your situation was, and it can really help them relate to something hard that they're going through that they need to get help with from Plexus. And then the blocking objections, I talked about wanting to get my money back. I talked about if prescriptions didn't work for my anxiety, why would these? And then tangible results. This didn't just change my life. It retired Justin out of the Marine Corps 10 years early, and I have been sleeping at night because my anxiety's gone, and we were able to just purchase a new home because of my Plexus income. So that's my story. I'm going to go ahead and post this link in here, and I'm going to actually post this for my big team page. And especially everyone on this call, I really encourage you guys to write out your story. And when I post it in the big team page, please comment your story underneath so that people can see your story, so that we can practice our stories and we can get all these key components in there, because our stories are absolutely our most important key component of our businesses. So you guys have a good one, and I'll be seeing you soon.